Good afternoon. I am Roland A. Dalagan, and my studies about Alsa Masa and answer to the challenges existing in Davao City. I am a student of Cebu University, an employee of Davao Oriental State College of Science and Technology, Masa. Davao had been a theater of violence for decades, and without Alsa Masa, Davao City would still be the killing fields. The history of Alsa Masa had been silenced due to inaccessible documentary sources, closed archives, and that the history of Alsa Masa is only in the footnotes of the local history of Davao City. This study is endeavored for an inclusive historiography with micro-application of Toynbee's theory of challenge and response. My study seeks to reconstruct the silence history of Alsa Masa movement in Davao City from 1986 to 1990. Specifically, wants to determine to know the socio-economic political conditions of Davao City during that time, how Alsa Masa surfaced among these conditions, and the support given to Alsa Masa, and the contribution of Alsa Masa to post-1990 Davao City. As I said earlier, this is a micro-application of Arnold Toynbee's challenges and responses, and the theory of Charles Tiley's social movement organization, where an organization need the support, external support, and that this organization will disappear or mutate. The design of this study is historical research, employs primary and secondary sources. I have 13 respondents, and research ethics have been observed in this study. What are the key findings of this study? In the social conditions, there were high crime incidents of Davao City during that time. In 1983, in the whole country, there was 6.7 violent incidents per day, or IPDs. In 1987, there was 8.5. In Davao City during that time, there were 2.4 IPDs, or equivalent to 73 deaths per month. Now, some of these killings were made by NPA, and some of these were by AWOL soldiers, and massacres and killing fields. The NPA was capable of killing innocent civilians, one of which was in Upper Panyalom massacre. The Upper Panyalom Paquibato District, Davao City, on October 21, 1987, where 50 heavily armed NPAs attacked, killed 12, and wounding 11 persons, including women and children, according to Somalino of 1987. And some of those NPAs who surrendered pinpointed the sites of some burial grounds or burial sites of their victims. And there were 115 victims of this NPA execution which were exhumed. The NPA recruited children aged 10 to 15, first as tax collector, and later on would graduate to become Sparrow unit members. In that year, there were about 738 families who were displaced because of the anti-insurgency campaign of the military in the rural areas. And it is equivalent to 3,960 evacuees. Now, these evacuees were goaded by the progressive leaders to return back to their places and demand from the government to discontinue the insurgency campaign. With regards to the political conditions during that time, in 1986, the police-civilian ratio was 1 to 2,618. But some of these police members and some military were arrogant, abusive, and corrupt. This is according to Davao City Government, 1979, and Davao City Planning and Development Coordinator 2000. Now, because of this, civilians went into the fold of the NPA because of the injustices committed by the military men. The NPA get rid of these abusive persons in the barangay. The NPA imposed curfew and discipline by giving warning among marijuana users, drug addicts, troublemakers, drunkards, common thieves, and they were given chance to reform. Otherwise, were liquidated. With regards to the economic conditions, there were revolutionary taxes. Both the poor and the rich were affected. The rich are being bankrupted, and the poor who grumbled because of the revolutionary taxes are listed for liquidation. Slum areas during that time, in 1974, there were 12,529 slum families within the population area of Davao City, and Agdao is one of these. And Agdao became a breeding ground for the Sparrow unit, as well as the bailiwick of Baon Gang, as well as the birthplace of Alsa Masa. And the worsened economic condition in Mindanao during that time, there were 250,000 unemployed, there were lawlessness and social neglect and absentee landowners. Now, because of this worsened economic condition, this would hasten the creation of revolutionary condition. Now, in this condition, how will Alsa Masa surface? One is that it was sparked by certain barangay captain, Wilfredo Baby Aquino of Agdao. And it was said that he organized Alsa Masa to protect his illicit business interests. However, among the participants, they joined Alsa Masa as a preservation of herself, family, and community. Now, with the presence of Colonel Franco Calida, the Alsa Masa was supported by arms and conduct community dialogue, organizing Alsa Masa groups and accepting NPA surrenderies. That's why he was able to win the hearts and minds of the civilians. But the growth of Alsa Masa is an urban phenomenon, meaning the concentration of Alsa Masa groups are only located along the lowland barangays of Davao City. And the laggard barangay in creating Alsa Masa organizations are in the far-flung areas. And with this, the leadership of the Alsa Masa fractured as early as mid-1987, because when June Pala, then the spokesman of Alsa Masa, ran for mayor of Davao, Colonel Franco Calida did not support him. And there was also a report that June Pala was not recognized in a certain program in the regional police office. That's why he was able to, June Pala organize another group, Contra Force Helping Hand Foundation, and Calida, through his trusted man, Ricardo Sardinia, organized the Unlad Masa Foundation, and later on the Federation of Alsa Masa Movement. And in this figure, we can say that Alsa Masa, as pointed by the red dots, is located or concentrated in the urban areas. There were also the military and police support, and most of the respondents believe that because of the firearm support from the military and the police, they were able to gain courage to resist the NPA. And there was also the media support. The media during that time focused on the positive. There was also the moral support of the Archbishop of Davao during that time. And 73% of the Davao, due to a survey conducted, 70% of Davao supported Alsa Masa. There were livelihood and employment support and legal education support. There are economic conditions improved because of the stable peace and order. And intelligence support, intelligence work was also given by the Alsa Masa, and implement firecracker and vigilance during Christmas season. Conclusion. During the conduct of the study, there were inaccessible data, fearful perspective of participants, limited archive local newspapers. There were senseless killings, revolutionary taxes. The NP, once a defender, became an executioner, and slum became breeding grounds both for Sparrow and Alsamasa. Lumpens served as force multipliers. As a response, Alsamasa is to preserve, they joined Alsamasa to preserve self, family, and community. There was a propaganda support from Davao media. There was secured livelihood support, peace of mind. Investors came back and thriving. It restored civilian support over the police and the military, and trade-off. Implication. As to the theory, there was a micro-application of theories of Toynbee's theories of challenges and response. And as a concept, a numbed society would trade off for stable peace and order, and local media would trade off reportage for perception management. As to the empirical, Wilfredo Baby Aquino organized Alsamasa, and the current social construction is that Rolando Boy Ponsa, or Kagay, as the Alsamasa founder, and Colonel Franco Calida, the Alsamasa godfather. This is my reference.